What is good, my dudes? Welcome back, welcome back. I hope everything is good with you and everything good with me. Coming at you live from my very blue room today to solve more starting point machines on HackTheBox. So today, we're going to be doing bike, and bike is one I've never seen before. So we're going to work things out as we go along. Hopefully, I should know how to do most of the stuff in there, and I'm going to explain everything I'm doing as I go. Let's get on with it. Question number 1. What TCP ports does Nmap identify as open? Answer with a list of ports separated by commas with no spaces from low to high. Let us go and check. So let me just make a new tab. I don't know why my terminal has now gone white. I don't know what happened, but I don't really mind it, to be fair. So Nmap, the IP address, -p. Oh wait, no, we don't need to do -p actually because we don't know what the ports are. I'm just going to do Nmap, the IP address, and then -t4 to speed things along. T4 makes things go faster. So we have port 22 and we have port 80 open. So let's go put that in, 22. 80, should get the right answer. Cool. So then question number 2 is, what software is running the service listening on the HTTP/web port identified in the first question? Let us go find out. So we got to do Nmap, the IP address again, but then we're going to do -p80, and then we're going to do SC and SV just in case it wants to do something silly, like in that one box where I had to find the MySQL version, but it just wasn't letting me do it. So I run the scripts now, which is -sc just in case. We have node.js, I think it might be looking for there. Yeah, node.js, node.js. Will it work? It will. Okay, so what is the name of the web framework according to Wappleizer? So Wappleizer is this little purple square I have over in this corner. If you open it up, you can see the various things that run on the website. This will work for the website you're currently on in the tab you're in. And it will just tell you things like the JavaScript frameworks. Sometimes it tells you information about the backend as well. So like if this was a WordPress website running on WP Engine, it would say WP Engine. So we go to bike, we get this very jarring animation, and checking Wappleizer, we see that we have Express as the framework. Node.js is a programming language, but really it's JavaScript and it's like a framework. So I'm guessing the answer they want is Express. And that is a backend software that runs on JavaScript. So it's kind of similar to Nginx, but it's all written in JavaScript. Question number 4. What is the name of the vulnerability we test for by submitting, and then you have 2 brackets, like 2 opening brackets, curly brackets, 7 times 7, and then closing brackets. And that is called server-side template injection. Let me just get a better description for you here. This is one I actually haven't seen too much of on pen tests. So I would actually like to know a bit more about it, so good thing we're doing this. Server-side template injection is when an attacker is able to use native template syntax to inject a malicious payload onto the template, which is then executed server-side. Template engines are designed to generate web pages by combining fixed templates with volatile data. Server-side template injection attacks can occur when user input is concatenated directly into a template, rather than passed in as data. Server-side template injection payloads are delivered and evaluated server-side, potentially making them much more dangerous than a typical client-side template injection. As many templates are simply strings, web developers sometimes directly concatenate user input into templates prior to rendering. Let's take a similar example to one above, but this time users are able to customize parts of the email before it is sent. For example, they might be able to choose the name that is used. Okay, so an output variable being set to dir and then the get parameter of name. So it will take whatever you pass in the get parameter name and put it into this, and then it will be rendered by Twig. During auditing, we might test for server-side template injection by requesting a URL such as this one here. So if this contains hello49, shows that the mathematical operation is being evaluated server-side, good proof of concept for SSTI. Question number 4. What is the name of the vulnerability we test for by submitting 7 times 7 in those curly brackets? That is server-side template injection. What is the templating engine being used within Node.js? Node.js templating engine. Let's see if it's... Okay, so it seems like I might have to go back and look at Wappleizer. So the hint says to read the error messages generated by giving that payload. So first of all, we need to find a place to perform our SSTI where we can inject into the server-side template. And I'm guessing it's going to be this because it's kind of obvious. So we're going to do cyberjamo at discord.eu, I think. Discord is EU. Is it EU? I can't remember. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so it was done via post request, which means in order to manipulate this, we're going to have to open burp. I think this might be the first time we're using burp in this series, which is quite exciting. I could be wrong, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'm going to teach you how to use Burp Suite today. How fun, how fun. So on Kali, what you do is you go up to this top menu here, you type in burp. Burp Suite will come up because it's the only program ever called burp, basically. You could also open it through your command line by just typing Burp Suite and then it'll open. Maybe do a Burp Suite and like an ampersand to have it run in the background if you don't want to lock up this particular tab in your terminal. But I just open it through the Explorer over here because I find it easier. Once you've got your Burp Suite open, you need to set up your proxy. Setting up the proxy is a bit long, but it is very easy. If you just Google how to set up Burp Suite proxy, there is an article on Portswigger about exactly how to do that. But you want Burp Suite and you want to get something called Foxy Proxy. So you can just switch between the Burp Suite proxy and not having a proxy nice and quickly. So you don't need to constantly reconfigure your Firefox or Chrome or whatever it is you're using. But you can just do it with Foxy Proxy. So I have switched my proxy to now route all my traffic through Burp Suite. Burp Suite is listening, and if I was to now put in cyberjamo at discord.eu, then we will see in here that our HTTP history in the proxy tab has updated, and we have a post request sent to the server. So now I am actually going to intercept my request because it's seeming like the input is reflected on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Windows right arrow key to put this on the right side. Learn your keyboard shortcuts, man. It makes you feel like such a hacker. And then I'm going to intercept all my traffic. And then I'm going to do this again. But this time, we're going to set my email to an SSTI payload. So let's just make those brackets. And then we're going to do 7 times 7 or ampersand times ampersand if you're a bit cack-handed like me. And then we're going to turn intercept off. It's going to send it through. And now we have this error. So I've submitted the SSTI payload to the server, and now I've got this error back from the server. This is where the web page would be had I not caused it to error. And we are actually looking for the name of the templating engine being used by this server. So let's have a look through here and see if we can find the name of a templating engine. So we have an error, we have our payload, I guess an arrow key, root backend node modules, handlebars seems to be the engine there. It's mentioned a couple of times, so handlebars. And also just kind of based on, I guess, the file structure, you can kind of tell that this is where things are. Let's have a try. Is it handlebars? Yes, it is. Okay, so question number 6. What is the name of the Burp Suite tab used to encode text? That is the decoder. So if you type text in here, have a look, and then we can encode it as base64, and now we have a base64 encoded string. And if you decode that as base64, you get the original text. Go to the cyberjamo Discord. So this is the tab where that's done. So decoder. Okay, question number 7. In order to send special characters in our payload in an HTTP request, we'll encode the payload. What type of encoding do we have to use? Ooh, what is that called? I actually don't know off the top of my head. But you can, in fact, I'm just sending this to the repeater so I can make the request over and over again. But you can see the different types of encoding by highlighting the part of the request you want to encode, right-clicking it, going down to Convert Selection, and then you can encode it as URL, HTML, base64. I'm guessing it wants URL because that is how you send, rather not spend, special characters in your requests. Okay, so let's have a look. Is it URL? I think it is. It is URL. So question number 7, the answer was URL. When we use a payload from HackTricks to try and return system commands, we get an error back. What is not defined in the response error? So let's have a look. So we're going to go to book.hacktricks.xyz. It will redirect you to the wiki. I don't think you can actually Google HackTricks anymore, which is annoying because it's such a good resource. Type that link in, I'll put it on the screen, put it in the description for you. Hopefully I don't forget. Jamie, if you're rewatching this and you're editing it and you're going to upload the video, make sure you put HackTricks in the description. It's such a good resource. Just leave it in there from now on. Just add it to the template. SSTI, short for server-side template injection. So, well, hold on, let's see if they have a section about handlebars. Here we go, handlebars, Node.js. So, we do in fact have a handlebars specific one here. Here is a URL encoded version of that entire payload, and I'm guessing we can just copy that in. So I've just grabbed a payload from HackTricks, and I'm now going to intercept my request, and I'm going to try using that payload in this new request, and I'm going to see what error we get. So require is not defined. Okay, that's the answer to this question. So question number 8, the answer was require. So question number 9 is, what variable is traditionally the name of the top-level scope in the browser context, but not in Node.js? Okay, so I will look for a variable that is the top-level scope in the browser. Top-level browser variable. Maybe that'll give me it. The window object. Understanding the scope. In the browser environment, the global scope is represented by the window object. This object serves as the top-level context, encompassing global variables, functions, and objects. Okay, so when you declare a variable outside of any function or anything, it becomes part of the window object. All right, so it's in there. So what's the difference with Node.js? In contrast, Node.js operates in a server-side environment where the global variable is managed differently. The Node.js global object is global, analogous to the window object in browsers. However, variables defined with var let const at the top level of a Node.js module do not become properties of the global object. Okay. So why is that? Why is that the case? To explicitly define a global variable, you must assign it to the global object. Okay, so in the browser, the window object is the kind of global context, whereas in Node.js, the global object is the global context. All right, that makes a bit more sense. So what is the top level scope in the browser context, but not in Node.js? Well, it's window, but not in Node.js. Well, what? That doesn't make any sense. Global. Okay, so the answer there is global. I feel like this question is the wrong way around. What variable is traditionally the name of the top level scope in the browser context, but not in Node.js? And then the top level scope is represented by the window object. So I feel like that question is the wrong way around. I'll have to do some more research into that, but the answer there is global. Question number 10. By exploiting this vulnerability, we get command execution as the user that the web server is running as. What is the name of that user? So we've now got to exploit what we know in order to get remote code execution. So require is not defined. So what I did was I went back to HackTricks, and then if you go down after finding the handlebars Node.js section in the SSTI page, there's a more information section. And then after that, clicked on the blog, had a look through, and I found what I think is going to give me remote code execution right here. So I'm going to chuck it in my repeater just so I can make requests over and over again. Put it in, and let's see what we get as a response. Okay, so we get a bunch of information, which means this has actually executed successfully. I don't know how I can show you this in a prettier way, but you can see a bunch of information that you would see if you were on the machine. So you can see the path variable here, it's user local sbin blah 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 blah. You can see our home directory. You can see that we're running as root. You can see root in a few places. You can see what shell we have with bin sh. So I had to do a bit of cheating, actually. I thought this was supposed to be a very easy box, but I found this really difficult to find. Like, I was searching through the documentation for ages. It's been probably an hour since I started this box, and I've just been stuck trying to figure out, how do I actually get this flag? How do I get this to run? And it turns out you can use this process.main module thing, and that means that you can require the modules that you use in order to run commands like child_process. Okay, that was a bloody complicated one, but hopefully, I guess, by coming along on the journey with me, you now understand a bit better. So we're gonna cat ls, and I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna see what we have. We have a bunch of stuff. Where is the flag in this case? Flags are usually, well, when it's a root flag, it's usually in /root. So let's see if the flag is in /root. It is. Okay, perfect. Root flag.txt. There we go. And you get the flag. So, that was a hard one. That was actually genuinely a very difficult box. It required a lot of reading of the documentation, had to do some research into SSTI, but eventually we got there. We did have to cheat, which no shame in that. We're learning new things, and it would have been a lot simpler if you just could have used the payload from HackTricks over there. You would have been able to do it straight away. I'm not really too sure how to sign this one off. That was a tough one. That was genuinely difficult. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.